Tucker Carlson interviewed Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I know that we've gone through a lot of deranged Marjorie Greene interviews, but this one is undoubtedly the most insane one I think we've ever discussed. I want to go through with you a truly dangerous and stunning interview that took place between Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene. It happened a few days ago, and I just came across it. I don't know how this flew under the radar because it's absolutely wild and disturbing, the fact that people watch this and think it's reasonable. That's crazy. So we're going to hear near calls to violence, racially charged fearmongering, and a conspiracy theory that the GOP primary might be stolen from Trump. They're starting that up. Oh no. Before diving in, make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel and hit the like button if you would. With that being said, we'll get to all these moments. They seem to get more insane as the interview goes along, so stick around for that. But let's go through it chronologically, starting with this Marjorie Greene saying that people's perception of her, oh, people think I'm crazy, that's just because of an unfair caricature of her in the media. Oh, okay.
Shocking. As a matter of fact, in January of 2021, all of Washington and the media, the national media, created a character of me that didn't exist. And then they sold that character across the news platforms, all across the country and across the world, 24/7. And Washington bought into it too. And so every single day I showed up to work, all of a sudden I was like this toxic poison member of Congress in Washington. And it was attacks day in and day out. It was something I'd never experienced before.
So I play that for you because as we go along watching moments from this interview, just keep in mind that she's trying to get away with saying, oh, all those crazy things you've heard me say or you've heard about me, that's actually just somehow the media distorting the facts about me to make me seem crazy. I'm actually super reasonable, the most reasonable, people are saying. Well, we'll be responding to Marjorie's words, so we'll see how reasonable it is throughout this segment. And by the way, before moving on to the next clip, this is something she's really been leaning into lately. At one point she said, oh yeah, I had some conspiracy theories in my past, but now she's trying to go a different route, trying to convince people that all of her conspiracy theories in the past and all of her dangerous views, it's not that she made mistakes, it's that those are just being dishonestly assigned as her beliefs. The Jewish space lasers thing, for example, she's just denying that altogether, which maybe could kind of work if it was all in the past and you started to pretend to be reasonable from now forward. But when you're producing new bonkers moments every day, that's sort of a hard talking point to sell. Then here is Marjorie and Tucker discussing Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
I was shocked when the Ukraine and Russia war started, or if you want to call it a war. I don't call it a war. I call it, it's a funded war. As a matter of fact, Washington, our country, is propping up Ukraine. We give them $1 billion every single month. That doesn't have anything to do with war. That pays for their government. That pays their salaries. That pays their retirements. That pays to fund their entire government. So we have Ukraine, I call it the 51st state, because Washington loves Ukraine so much. They just love Zelensky and love Ukraine. But when that started, and then all of a sudden, and I wasn't for it, I was like, why are we doing this? This doesn't make any sense. We have so many problems at home, and people in my district are suffering. People have lost their businesses. They can't pay their rent. Senior citizens can't, they're choosing between food and medicine.
So I promise we'll get to the uniquely crazy moments that I mentioned at the beginning. I know we've heard stuff like that many, many times from MAGA Republicans already, but first I just have to rant about that a little bit. So her normal talking points on Ukraine, I've dedicated countless segments in the past to responding to those for the sake of Ukraine, global stability, and our national security. We should be supporting Ukraine. We would spend a whole lot more money in the future if Russia isn't stopped in their tracks right here. But to her final point, this is something people like Marjorie Greene say a lot. We shouldn't be sending money to a cause that's in our national security interest. They won't admit that, but the reason we shouldn't is because there are problems at home, which absolutely true. There are problems at home. And you know who is constantly voting against legislation to solve those problems? You, Marjorie. We want to address both foreign policy issues and domestic issues. You want to address neither. She brought up, for example, prescription drug costs at the end, people not being able to afford their medicine. absolutely a problem. Marjorie Greene and her fellow Republicans are the ones who voted against Medicare being able to negotiate drug prices to lower costs for seniors, something luckily Democrats were still able to successfully implement. Republicans call any Democratic legislation socialism instead of getting on board with actually solving some of these problems. And then she uses those problems that she's not wanting to solve as a justification to not help Ukraine. And you might remember that Democrats wanted to cap the cost of insulin for all Americans, but Republicans were able to prevent that from happening. So Democrats were only able to cap the cost of insulin for Medicare recipients at $35 out of pocket per month. Not to mention all the investments in jobs, infrastructure, etc. that Marjorie Greene voted against. So it's one of the most disingenuous talking points you can imagine. Next moment, Marjorie has quotes on the back of her book that's not selling well at all of liberals saying different things to the effect of Marjorie Greene's awful, and that's a way to promote her book to right-wingers. And that question leads to her saying this.
MTG is a cause for trauma and fear among members of Congress, says Pelosi. This woman gets to come and talk about taking over the country, and she's not behind bars. How does that work, says Whoopi Goldberg?
Yeah, they're trying,
they'd kill you if they could.
Absolutely. They would kill me. They'd kill you, too. They'd kill many of us.
What do you think that's about?
I mean, the fear-mongering is just next level, super dangerous. If you think the radical left Democrats are going to come and kill you, what would that justify on your part? And that leads us to this clip.
Like, how long can this continue? You have one party that's destroying the country at high speed and another party that's helping them do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the majority of the population, to one degree or another, is not on board with this.
Right.
So that sounds like pre-revolutionary to me. Like, that can't continue forever, can it?
It should. The American people should not tolerate it. No, they seriously should not tolerate it at all.
That sounds pre-revolutionary, he says. The definition I looked up just to add a little context of revolution is, quote, a forcible overthrow of a government or social order in favor of a new system, end quote. The last time MAGA people got obsessed with the idea that it was time for a revolution, they would repeat 1776 all over again. Do you remember what happened? January 6th. As we get closer to Trump hopefully losing in 2024, the rhetoric from him and his allies is escalating and getting more and more in the realm of explicit calls to violence, which is super frightening. Then you have Marjorie proving that her attempts to impeach seemingly everyone in Biden's administration totally pointless because she's doing it to everyone.
Well, I introduced articles of impeachment on Christopher Wray, Merrick Garland, Matthew Graves, the son of a bitch that attacks these January 6th defendants day in and day out, who is horrible, doesn't prosecute crime in D.C. He's a U.S. attorney. He has a jurisdiction to do both. Doesn't do crime in D.C., only does J6ers. Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, I forced that to the floor recently. 8 Republicans voted with the Democrats to protect them. 3 of them were chairmen of powerful committees. And Joe Biden, multiple times. But Republicans don't have the courage or the guts, or maybe they don't want to impeach any of these people.
They clearly don't.
You can't pretend like you're taking the act of impeachment seriously when you're trying to impeach everyone under the sun. Anybody you don't like, impeach them. And it's yet another example of the real lack of a commitment among extreme MAGA Republicans to seriously govern. It's not about working through issues and trying to find the best solutions to problems. It's not about trying to implement policies to improve the lives of their constituents. It's about brinkmanship, these political stunts, the investigations of Biden desperately trying to attack their political opponents. And it's pretty exhausting. Then we get to this, and I'm having a hard time thinking of new words to describe the absurdity. It's crazy, it's bonkers, it's ridiculous, it's insane, it's dangerous. She's already pushing the idea that maybe the reason donors are supporting Nikki Haley in the Republican primary despite her trailing Trump in the polls is because they know it's going to be stolen from Trump.
Are Republican donors rather, that dumb and out of touch? Or is this some sort of complex PR play, or what is that?
Is the election rigged? I mean, that's where my mind goes.
Well,
Why
yeah.
would rich, powerful people choose to donate to a losing candidate unless there's something that they know that we don't know?
Well, that's a great question.
Even within Republican primaries, MAGA Republicans believe the only way the election can be fair is if they win. Rather ridiculous. And it is true that it's incredibly unlikely that Nikki Haley could win the nomination. Trump has a massive lead on everyone in the polls in the Republican primary, but if somehow she did, I dread how MAGA Republicans would react. I'm sure they would say what Marjorie's already setting up there. It's all rigged. The entire Republican Party, except for Trump, is also a part of the Democratic Party or the deep state or whatever. Then Tucker Carlson and Marjorie go on for a few minutes lying about the murder of George Floyd. I won't subject you to that. And then the conversation gets to this.
They sacrificed Derek Chauvin because he's white and he's male, and they want to kill off a whole generation of white men. They don't want them to be police officers. They don't want them to join the military. They don't want them to be strong figures in their family or husbands or fathers.
Well, they say all that, so you're not guessing. We need more diversity in our police. We need fewer white men in our police department. That's what they're saying. Mm-hmm. So your assessment is not crackpot. It's taking their words and repeating them.
Just in this interview, you have multiple instances of the most dangerous language you can imagine in politics. Not only, according to Marjorie, are the Democrats trying to kill all these different people like her, but they're trying to kill off white men. Just absolutely deranged. While Biden, the leader of the Democratic Party, an old white man, I might add, is focused on creating more jobs, lowering prescription drug costs, and building roads and bridges, Marjorie Tucker and others are dedicating their energy to presenting a disgusting and distorted view of the world to their followers. And we'll end with this.
Obviously, you're not going to become a Democrat because they're the mirror image of
Satan.
Democrats are Satan, she says. And they act offended that Hillary Clinton used the term deplorables. Come on. Before we go, don't forget to become a member at lukebeasleyshow.com/membership to get access to a daily bonus show, an entire bonus show Monday through Friday. Plus, follow me on Threads at Luke Beasley Official, Instagram at Luke Beasley Official, X at Luke P. Beasley, and sign up for the Beasley Brief, a daily morning newsletter that summarizes the previous day's events by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/brief, and I'll talk to you all next time.